Welcome, everyone. Let's go ahead and get into a comfortable posture for meditation. And so as we settle in, might take a moment to just be present with what's here in the body. Noticing if there's any tension or agitation. We often pick up a lot of that when we're out and about moving, doing what we do in our day. And just noticing if it's there and gently letting it go if that's possible. We might do the same with the mind, noticing what's there. Noticing the patterns of thought. Perhaps there's emotions, any peace or agitation. Whatever's there is fine. And we might take a few deep breaths. And on the exhale, letting go. Really letting go into that relaxation. And on your own time, you may return to a normal rhythm of breathing. Just settling into this body, breathing. The nice thing about breathing is that you don't have to do anything. The body will do this all on its own. You can simply watch. Just feel the breath as it arises, changes, and passes away. The breath is this rhythmic component of our life. It's always there. This cycle of in-breath and out-breath. We don't often pay much attention to it. It's something we can simply relax into. Just let go into the body, breathing the breath. And when the mind moves away from the breath, as it eventually will, just letting go of whatever the mind is infatuated with, whatever story, whatever thought, whatever sensation the mind is working with, just let go. You don't need to push it away. You don't need to tell that thought or story not to be there. Just let the mind let go of its hold on that object. And just fade back into the breath. Letting the breath take center stage. Letting it be in the spotlight of experience. You might notice that after a time, the breath develops a sort of magnetism to it. The mind tends to pay more attention to the breath, wanders less. It's more interested in all the little nooks and crannies of the sensations of the breath. And of course, the mind still wanders sometimes, but it does so less and less. When you notice the mind wandering, just let go and return to the breath with no judgment or recriminations, just kindness. And taking a quick moment to notice if any tension has crept into the body. Just the face or the shoulders or the hands. And so just taking a moment to let that go. And then return to the breath, letting it draw attention in deeper. Letting the breath be the anchor of attention, like a black hole pulling in a star, circling closer and closer. And as the gravity of the breath continues to pull attention back to itself, you might let this gravity, pull attention in deeper as well. Picking up more of the sensations of the breath, all the little details. This is a very effortless thing. None of this is being done by you. This is just the breath breathing. As attention goes deeper and deeper, the breath becomes vivid and bright. It's great detail to the sensations of the breath, much motion, flux. And if any tension has come into the body, see if you can simply let it go. Tension is a result of efforting. And there is no real effort that needs to be done here. Breath arises all on its own. And you may notice that when attention rests on the breath, this vibrant flow and flux, movement, the mind tends to quiet down a bit. Not always. When the mind quiets down, often feelings of peace or joy will arise alongside the breath, happiness or pleasantness. You might notice if any of that is there. And if you see any of that, let attention incorporate those feelings as well. It's a lovely gift to give to yourself, to put attention on happiness or joy or pleasant physical sensations. It's a nice little treat at the end of the meditation. And if there's any pleasant sensations available, just letting go fully into those, letting go of the breath. in this last minute, just taking this time to appreciate the benefits of your practice, both here today and in general. Just appreciate how this is changing your life, moving you towards a path with less suffering. And perhaps also appreciating how this lessened suffering spreads to those around you. Welcome, everyone. Hi, nice to see you. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Johan. Hi, Jesse. Hello again, Stig and Chris. So tonight we're going to talk about Nibbana. And I will say that Nibbana is, in my mind at least, the trickiest topic to talk about. So if I stop making sense at some point, that's entirely on me. I think it's a very helpful topic to talk about. So I want to start by taking a few moments to understand how we experience the world. I have here a prop. This is a cup. And the way that we normally understand the world, we would look at this cup and think of this as a kind of separate object, as something that has properties and characteristics that can be ascribed to it. And so if I look at this cup in the normal way of things, I might say things like, this cup is red and it has this little snowflake pattern at the top, and it has tactile qualities to it. It's hard and smooth and so on and so forth. And we might think that those things say something about the cup itself, something inherent to the cup. But what I'm actually talking about is something different. I'm actually talking about my perception of the cup. And my perception of the cup is not the cup itself. It's a combination of the cup and this body, and perhaps some other things as well. So when I say something like, this cup is red, I'm describing my perception, like using this body. And if this body changed, for example, if I were colorblind, the perception would appear to be different. So I don't actually see this cup. I perceive some combination of this body and this cup. And the same thing is true of tactile sensations too. I'm feeling this cup in a certain way. And if I were to go stick my hand in a bucket of ice, and then hold the cup again, I would be feeling something different. So my sense of touch is also a combination of this cup and this body, and so on and so forth with the rest of the senses. So we perceive the perceptions. We never actually come into contact with the source of those perceptions. Those are two different things. And so I have an analogy or a comparison, I guess, for what we're doing. There's a technique in engineering called black box testing. And I have here another prop. This is a black box. And so, in black box testing, what you want to do is you want to understand this, like pretend this is a circuit. You want to understand what's inside this box. But the constraint is that you don't get to look inside the box. You don't get to know directly what the circuitry is. And so what you do is you probe the inputs, like you put some voltage on the wires, and then you see what comes out. You look at the output and see what the waveforms are. And if you do enough of this, and you can infer what's inside the box without actually ever looking at it. And so this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing with this cup. We never contact the source of these perceptions of this cup directly. What we're doing is we're probing this cup with our senses and with our eyes and with our hands and with our other senses, and we're inferring what this cup is. And so this is actually like quite a big point, or it has big implications at least. So I thought maybe we would like sit and take a minute or two and like approach this in a contemplative way. So if you want to close your eyes for a minute, I try and walk you through this a bit. So all you ever perceive are perceptions. When you came into this room, wherever you are, you had some perception of the walls, and you have some perception of what you're sitting on now, but you never contacted the source of those things. And in fact, everything you're experiencing right now is simply perceptions. None of that is the source of those perceptions. And this includes your body and your mind. You experience your body, you experience your mind, but you don't experience the source of those things. The whole world is like this. You have never contacted the source of any part of this world directly. Everything you experience is perception. And so all you ever perceive is the mind's simulation of how it thinks the world is. And so given that, what do you think the world is really like? Try that out. See what you come up with. I'll give you a minute or so. If it helps to focus on a particular object, you might do that. What is that particular object actually like? Given that all of your perceptions are stuff that the mind makes up. They're not the object itself. They're contingent phenomena. And I wonder if you're doing what I did when I had this insight. I'll share my experience of this. I had this insight when I was sitting on retreat. I was doing walking meditation out in the forest, and I had the insight. I was looking at all these trees, and I had the insight that I had never seen a tree before, and everything kind of became transparent, not in the literal sense that I could kind of see through a tree, but they felt transparent to me. They didn't have any solidity, and this was quite a big insight for me. And I spent I recall the next couple of days walking around in this state. Right, I felt kind of high actually. There's a phrase in Zen, drunk on emptiness. This insight that everything is the mind's simulation of how it thinks the world is quite heady. And so I walked around like this for a couple of days before I realized what I was doing. My perception of the world had become transparent, but not fully so. I still had some structure to the trees. There was this kind of like diaphanous outline to the trees. And when I realized what I was doing, I realized that I was still ascribing these characteristics to these trees that were not intrinsic to the tree. This shape and this space were still something I was making up. And I wonder if you all might be doing that as well as you're trying to visualize this world. And you can let that go and come back to the present. So there's a discrepancy between the perceptions that we experience and the source of those perceptions. That's true of the cup. That's true of every object that we encounter. So there's a big question mark that comes to mind. There's a perception and the source of the perception. And so we might have questions about this, like, what is this cup actually? What are these objects? What is the source of these perceptions? And even like, why is there experience at all? This is the like popular question for philosophers. It's called the hard problem of consciousness. We can talk about the physical reality of things all day long. We can talk about the physical processes behind seeing this cup. We can talk about the molecules in the glaze in this cup and how they interact with the photons, and how the photons interact with the retina and the optic nerve, and how the optic nerve propagates electrical signals like throughout the brain. And you can spend a whole lifetime on that kind of inquiry, but never answer the question, why is there experience? And so as we look out at the world, we see these question marks for all the objects. It's this great, great sea of question marks. And this sea of question marks it's an anathema to the mind. The mind does not like this. The most reductive way possible that I can describe the mind is that the mind is a device that tries to model the world correctly. So it tries to figure out what these objects are and figure out all their properties and how they relate to each other. And it does this so that it can navigate experience in order to come to a more pleasant experience. So if the mind knows how the world works, it knows how to move throughout the world to get what it wants. This is what evolution has given us. This is what we do. And the tool to make that work is that when we get this model wrong, it's unpleasant for us. So this is our tool or this is our incentive to make it a good model. The mind is constantly trying to model the world and constantly failing in various degrees. And when it fails, it's painful. And the mind would really, really like a model that was never contradicted by the world. That way there would be no suffering. So the bigger our model gets, the more often it's contradicted by the world. So the mind prefers these kind of smaller models. So if you are someone who has a very kind of expansive self-concept, you have lots of things that you think are true about yourself. You have many plans or many beliefs about yourself, many things that you think, many things that you think you should be. This is going to be contradicted by the world a lot, and it's going to be painful for you. So the mind would like a model that's never contradicted by the world. And it turns out that there is such a model. We think of our experience as something that's always on. We think it's like kind of mandatory part of being alive, but it turns out that it's not. The simulation that we run, the experience that we have, it has a purpose. Its purpose is that so that we can navigate the world and get whatever we want. But when the mind feels very safe and very at peace, and it's let go of all the hindrances and let go of the things that it wants, it's let go of the wanting to change the world in a certain way, it can feel safe enough to turn off the simulation. It doesn't need to be, experience doesn't need to be present. And it can do that. And so there's a name for this. This is called cessation. And the Pali word for this is nirodha. And when I say the simulation turns off, or perception turns off, or experience turns off, perhaps you might be imagining like a kind of black void or something like that. But it's something a bit more than that. Like if you're imagining the lights kind of go out in perception, it's more than that. It's that the stage gets like packed up and rolled away too. So there's no experience at all when this has occurred. And so your lived experience of this is of a like a jump cut in a movie, if you're familiar with that term. So a jump cut is when you're filming a scene with one camera. And so like I'm filming from here, and I'm filming and I'm filming, and there's a switch from one frame to another. You switch from another, like one camera to another, and there's a discontinuity in the film. And this is a direct experience of cessation. So you're not experiencing anything when cessation happens, but when it boots back up, when the simulation turns back on and you start experiencing again, it gives you some information about something outside of experience. So it's not direct experience. You don't directly experience things during cessation, but the way things come back, you're able to infer something about something outside of experience, in the same way that you could infer the insides of this black box without ever looking into it. And so what this does, this being able to infer something outside of experience, is that it breaks the spell of reality. Like it feels like this experience is real. Like it feels like we're in some kind of objective reality. When you're able to infer something outside of experience, it breaks that spell and it becomes a dream. And what it also tells you is that something else is out there, and something else is not the right word for it, and out there is not the right word for it either. But there's something that hits the reboot button to start the experience back up again. And you never see any of this. It's just inferred. But what this inference does is allows the mind to do something that's like very, very, very helpful. So all of the answers to the questions about the cup are things that are outside of experience. So the questions we had about this cup, like what is this cup actually? Not what the perceptions are, but what is this cup? It's something we can never directly experience. Why is there experience at all? It's projected from outside of experience. It's not something we can ever. The answer to that is outside of experience. And what happens with cessation, that you can infer something outside of existence, the mind is able to take all those question marks to all the things that we see and we perceive, and it groups them together. It puts them all into one thing, and it draws a box around that, and says, this is where all those questions come from, and it puts them into a concept, and it gives the mind a foothold to understand that. And when the Buddha did this 2,600 years ago, the name he used for like to put around all those question marks is Nibbana. And when I don't know which person it was, but when a Hebrew did this some very long time ago, they called it God. And other folks call this the source, and there are other names for that too. But this is what people are talking about. And so Nibbana is not a thing. It's not a place, and it's hard to talk about it without using that kind of language. It's not any of those things. It's the mind inferring a source to all those questions. So it's a change in how the mind models the world. The mind goes from modeling the world as I am this separate being with my own wants and likes and desires moving about in the world, like based on those kind of inherent characteristics about me, to all of this is a dream that's projected from Nibbana, from this source outside of existence. And what this does is that this eliminates your suffering, because when you're walking around as this separate self, this can be contradicted by the world. If you are you're painting a painting and you show your painting to your friend, and your friend and you ask your friend if they like it, and your friend says, I've seen better. If you are modeling the world such that, I am a good painter and I am somebody that, this friend should like, that can be hurtful. Like your model is just contradicted, and this hurts. But if you understand that same situation is this is all a projection of Nibbana, there's no hurt there. There's no contradiction, and that can never be. That understanding of the world can never have any. It will never run into conflict with the world. I like the dream analogy. I use this is a common way to refer to our experiences as a dream, and I like it because you probably have had the experience of having a nightmare at some point and having a like very difficult time of it, and then at some point you understand that you're in a dream. You understand that you're in a nightmare, and it may still be unpleasant, but the tenor of the experience changes greatly when you know it's just a dream. And that same thing is true of this life as well. When you think it's real, um, it has a lot more weight to it than if you understand it as a dream. Hmm. I guess another analogy or I like to use, is that of a movie like playing on a screen. If you look at that movie and you understand yourself to be the main character in the movie, depending on the movie, that could be a pretty difficult thing. There's maybe lots of violence and uncertainty and all sorts of unpleasant stuff going on. But if you're able to shift your perception away from that, and if you're able to think of yourself as the movie screen, or understand yourself as the movie projector, you're not invested in the story in the same way, such that um, like you don't suffer when it's not a pleasant story. So I hope that shed like some light on Nibbana. Um, Maybe just to recap a little bit. So Nibbana is not a place, it's not a thing, it's not anything. And even saying Nibbana is nothing is too much. Um, it, it's it's not something you ever see directly. You only infer it, like the black box testing I was talking about. Or maybe another analogy is that you perceive Nibbana in the same way that you perceive your blind spot. I don't know if you've done the experiment to find your blind spot, but you can never see your blind spot. You just infer its existence. You can never see Nibbana directly. You just infer its existence. And so there's a way of understanding the world in which everything has a source outside of existence. And I'm not kind of making any claims as to the actuality of anything outside of existence. That doesn't even make sense to talk about. I'm just saying that the mind can infer something outside. And when that understanding of the mind is present, all the phenomena that arise and pass away, so everything we experience, are understood to come from Nibbana. Nibbana is just a placeholder, nothing more. And maybe it seems like such small potatoes to hang this like model of experience on, but the mind is really very happy to do so, because this can't be contradicted by experience, and so you can't suffer from it. I think I'll make one last point. If you notice all the questions we had about the cup, what is this cup really, or where does the experience of this cup come from, or why is there experience? If you notice, we never got any like real good answers to them. Like the mind just kind of like put them in a place and called them Nibbana. And so, all we really have is like, what is this cup? Well, this cup is Nibbana. And where does the experience of this cup come from? Nibbana. Why is there experience of this cup? It's a projection of Nibbana. So you don't really get any answers to those questions, or at least not that I know. I mean, perhaps that's further down the path, but yeah, I wanted to say, like, I hope it's not discouraging that you don't get the answers to the questions, because like it's really very good to ask those kinds of questions, because it leads you to this place. It leads you to the understanding of Nibbana that leads to the end of your suffering. Yeah. That's what I have to offer today. Thank you all for coming.